The air inside the training ground changed the day Xabi Alonso announced a full squad return. Suddenly options that had been closed were reopened and the pecking order in Real Madrid's midfield tilted. Two names that had been whispered about on injury reports, Jude Bellingham and Eduardo Camavinga, are suddenly available again, and the consequences were immediate. Aurelien Tchouaméni, the man who stepped up while the others were out, now finds himself sliding toward the bench. Alonso framed it plainly as a tactical recalibration, not a rebuke, but the headline remains blunt. The club that relied on Tchouaméni's relentless engine plans to bring him back to a supporting role as starters return. To understand the tension, rewind a little. When Bellingham and Camavinga were sidelined, Tchouaméni moved from a promising addition into a central pillar. He played big minutes in crucial fixtures, broke up play, and provided the muscle and discipline Alonso needed to hold a system together. Fans and pundits praised his adaptability and stamina, and the Frenchman's performances were more than stopgap. They were convincing. Yet many of those minutes were given because the team had to cover absences. The emergence was circumstantial as much as it was earned. That context explains why, with reinforcements back, the manager can now reorder starting plans without abandoning the player who delivered when called upon. What does the return of Bellingham and Camavinga change on a tactical level? It returns a balance that Alonso values. Bellingham brings tempo, creativity, and forward thrust that pull defenders and open channels, while Camavinga supplies a dynamic blend of defensive cover and progressive passing that stabilizes the middle. Together they offer a different mix of control and attacking impetus that Alonso clearly wants when everything is available. In short, the midfield regains a more familiar architecture. A pairing that has the manager confident he can control both defensive transition and chance creation in high-intensity matches. That is why Tchouaméni's role moves from default starter to strategic option. For Tchouaméni, the professional challenge is immediate and personal. The bench is not a graveyard. It can be the launching pad for decisive interventions. The super sub who arrives with fresh legs, changes rhythm and secures matches. If he embraces that identity, he becomes indispensable across a long season. A player whose contribution is measured in match control rather than minutes alone. But the other possibility is friction. A youngish, ambitious international who tasted constant starting minutes may struggle with reduced pitch time, which can ripple into form and confidence. Management of minutes, communication from the coaching staff, and the player's own mentality will determine whether this transition strengthens the squad or sows unrest. Alonso's message, carefully worded in press remarks, was that having everyone fit is a luxury and a responsibility. The coach now has to manage workloads, preserve freshness across competitions, and deploy the right profile for specific opponents. That pragmatic view makes sense for a team with title ambitions and a congested calendar. Rotation is not an admission of failure, but a tactic to sustain peak performance over months. The immediate effect is a deeper, more versatile midfield. When Bellingham's creativity or Camavinga's energy is needed, they start. When the match calls for muscle, tactical shifts, or late consolidation, Tchouaméni steps in. If the piece is fit, Real Madrid's overall engine will be stronger than any single starting X9. But the narrative that sells clicks is the human one. Will Tchouaméni accept the reshaped role and thrive, or will reduced starts plant seeds of frustration that lead to transfer speculation or dressing room tension? The coming weeks will be instructive. Early cameo performances that change games will silence critics and showcase his professionalism. Visible sulking or dips in form would create uncomfortable questions about internal harmony. For the club, the priority is obvious: win matches and preserve squad unity. But for the player, it's a career moment where attitude and output matter as much as talent. Fans will watch every substitution, every body language cue, because this is the kind of subplot that can define seasons. In sporting terms, the immediate beneficiaries are Madrid's match plans, more flexibility, the ability to vary tempo, and a clearer pathway for rotating during Champions League nights and league rundowns. For opponents, the unpredictability grows. Madrid can start with Bellingham's spark or Camavinga's tenacity and later bring on Tchouaméni for balance. For the player at the centre of this shake-up, acceptance and impact will be the coin of his continued importance. The next fixtures will test whether Alonso's reset was merely a short-term reaction to returning fitness or the start of a season defined by smarter rotation, deeper squads and a midfield that wins not just by starters but by how the manager manages the whole unit. Watch the minutes, watch the body language and watch how Real Madrid converts this newly available depth into results. Because in elite football, how a club handles returning stars and the players displaced by them often decides more than tactics, it decides momentum.